Thank you very much, Tara, Walter, Thomas, Kurt, I guess. This really is a great honor. I never expected to get inaugurated to anything, although it recently started to feel a little bit more natural because a few weeks ago, true story, I saw a little girl pointing at me and I overheard her saying, "Mommy, that man looks like George Washington." Of course, I assumed she meant Alexander Hamilton, but anyway, she probably didn't appreciate the fact that one of the primary differences between me and George Washington is that, unlike George Washington, I have many predecessors in this role who could serve as models for an inaugural address. And I have a very clear recollection of my good friend Peter Levesque in his first inaugural doing a PowerPoint presentation. So being a lawyer, I thought that was very exotic and cool. So I thought, well, maybe I'll try that myself. Now, since then, Peter has vehemently denied that either he or any other AmCham chairman in history has ever done an inaugural PowerPoint. But that's not how I remember it. And anyway, once I saw this video wall, I knew what I had to do. So, here it is, the first ever AmCham inaugural PowerPoint. Allegedly. So our central theme today will be adapting to change. Following that theme, I first want to apologize to anyone who was defrauded into coming to this event because of the photo in the original event announcement. This is a stark reminder of the need to acknowledge and adapt to change. All right, before we get into the even bigger changes, affecting our world, I want to acknowledge a few of the people who make AmCham tick. Robert Greaves, founder and CEO of Hamilton Advisors, will serve as vice chairman this year. He'll head our government relations group and be involved in the full range of initiatives that we have set up. Owen Bellman, North Asia CEO of Aon Risk Solutions, has agreed to serve for a third year as our treasurer. He's generously contributed his time and his good judgment to make sure that we follow a sound fiscal course. And in an exception to that, he'll be paying the bill today. We have 4 board members who departed in 2017. We very much appreciate their contributions. We have 5 new members joining the board and very much look forward to working with them. In the case of Richard Wiseman, we're getting back a former vice chairman, joining for his 3rd stint on the board, the first beginning in 1994. Welcome back, Richard. I want to acknowledge the entire Board of Governors and the 54 committee chairs and vice chairs. These are busy people who generously volunteer their time and experience and wisdom. They're the heart of AmCham. We're fortunate to have 13 past chairs living in Hong Kong, and many of them are still active today. 5 of them, in fact, are here at lunch today. Walter, of course, who's been a great mentor and inspiration for the past 2 years. Peter, who first convinced me to get actively involved in AmCham. And also our good friends and great supporters, Rob Chipman, Steve DeCray, and John Zinke. We're especially grateful to Steve, who chaired the nominating committee that selected Tara as our new president. She's almost exactly a year into the job, and she has gotten off to a spectacular start leading the all-star AmCham staff. John made a somewhat more dubious contribution this year, which we'll be hearing about in a few moments. Welcome once again to our friends from the U.S. Consulate who are here today, a testimony to our very close working partnership, and which is something I think that we both treasure. And finally, the most important person in the room. This is my assistant, Wendy Kwan. She has been my assistant for 19 years. 19 years. Wendy, where are you? Okay. You've been my assistant for 19 years, and I can guarantee you that without her, I would not be here today. If only because I would have gone to the wrong hotel.
Good luck, AmCham.
Who put that in there? Quickly introduce myself. I am a lawyer, as you've heard. I grew up on a cattle farm in Virginia. I started my legal career in the Office of the Legal Advisor at the U.S. State Department, although I'm afraid that was many years before any of our consulate friends here joined the Foreign Service, because I'm now in my 25th year in Hong Kong with the Paul Weiss Law Firm. Beyond that, we'll let the chairman of the nominating committee explain my qualifications.
There are certain criteria that we look at in assessing candidates for the position. The first is the individual's leadership and fellowship qualities in the business community and the individual's participation in chamber activities. It can be a daunting task to find the right person to lead the chamber, as there are many qualified individuals who are nominated in the selection process. Jack Lange was our unanimous choice for chairman this year, and not only because he ticked all the boxes that mentioned above, what really impressed the committee was Jack's amazing head of hair. Really, for somebody his age, his hair is pretty remarkable, don't you agree? And in any event, he was the only potential candidate who had no illegal structures. Thank you.
Okay, John, well, I guess that about sums it up. Okay, on to our priorities. AmCham is a well-oiled machine. We have 25 committees. We organize over 300 events a year covering a mind-boggling array of different topics that are of interest to our members. And that machine just rolls on year in and year out, adding value to our membership. So from that point of view, AmCham is a model of continuity. But every year, we identify a few areas for special focus of attention at the board level and throughout the chamber. This year, those areas, though quite diverse among themselves, are all about change and about what we can do to adapt to it and exploit it. We're living in a world characterized by rapid and, in many ways, gut-wrenching change. I think people always feel like the time that they're living, change is going faster than ever before. Right now, I'm pretty confident that that's right. We're going through change faster than at any time in history. There was an interesting article in the China Daily earlier this week, which pointed out that on the bookshelf behind President Xi as he gave his New Year's address, there was a copy of Brett King's book, Augmented, in which the author makes the argument that society will be impacted by technologies that will change the world more in the next 20 years than it's been changed in the last 250 years. Now, as hyperbolic as that may sound, it doesn't seem to me to be outlandish at all. We focused on some big picture changes that are affecting our members, our community, and AmCham itself, and have identified 4 priority focus areas for this year, where we'll undertake initiatives designed to help the Chamber and its members better understand, adapt to, and take advantage of those changes. The areas are U.S. advocacy, smart city, future of work, and the Greater Bay Area. Another thing that ties these priorities together is that they're areas where we truly believe that we can be a thought leader. You'll hear that phrase a lot as we go through these, but it's not actually a phrase to be thrown around lightly. In order to make an impact, we need a critical mass of members who live and breathe the relevant issues and who are creative and engaged in addressing them. We've chosen areas where we think we have that, where we can influence the conversation and ultimately help shape policy, and where a meaningful segment of our members can benefit from what we do. In the spirit of change and in recognition of this dependence on a critical mass of creative, engaged, committed people, I'm going to introduce these priorities in a somewhat different way than in the past. Rather than do it all myself, I'm going to do it with the help of some of the other members of the AmCham leadership who are going to be taking the lead and driving things forward in these different areas and who are going to join us through my PowerPoint. Advocacy. Advocacy is one of the core functions of AmCham, one of the core benefits that we provide to our members, along with networking, information, visibility, and access. Let me explain a couple big changes, one of which has been building for years and another which has hit us all like a typhoon, how a few of these changes have affected the way that we think about advocacy. First, the long-term one, the effect of technology over time on AmCham's special competencies. You look at this list, networking. We still provide unparalleled networking opportunities. I see networking going on all around here. But yet, technology has thrown up all sorts of other means of networking that we couldn't even have imagined 24 years ago when I first joined AmCham. We're still an invaluable source and disseminator of information, but needless to say, these days we have almost unlimited sources of information. We're still an outstanding platform for corporate visibility, absolutely, as our leadership forum members are well aware. But advocacy and access, that's where we remain indispensable. That is what has developed into what the professor in the one and only business school course I ever took would call our distinctive competence. Is that right? AmCham is good at advocacy. We're the largest and most influential international chamber in Hong Kong. We're listened to. What we say makes a difference. We have broad and deep ties with the Hong Kong government. Last year, in my capacity as head of the Government Relations Group, I participated in small roundtable lunches separately with each of the chief executive, the chief secretary, the financial secretary, no fewer than 10 other government secretaries, in addition to hosting an extremely successful reception for the chief executive, attended by many Hong Kong government officials. I could go on. Our relationship with the Hong Kong government is very deep, it's cooperative, it's collaborative. They're interested in what we have to say and are responsive to our concerns. In fact, I'm going to pause here and play a short greeting that we have received.
Congratulations, Jack, on your inauguration as AmCham chairman. Tara, good luck working with him this year. AmCham is a very important international chamber in Hong Kong, and I look forward to working with both of you in this coming year.
Well, I don't know what all this good luck stuff is about, but thanks, Bernie. And of course, we have a very, very good relationship with the consulate. That's been referred to a number of times today, but it can't be emphasized enough. And I'm also particularly happy to have so many folks from the consulate here. They are such good hosts for us on many, many occasions. On an occasion in the living room at the Consul General's residence recently, I referred to it as the unofficial headquarters of the American community in Hong Kong. So it's very gratifying to be able to return some of the hospitality today. But in Washington, sometimes not so easy. Which brings me to the next big change. There was, as we all know, a change of administration in Washington last year. And with that, some pretty radical changes in outlook on a number of issues that are extremely important to our members. Trade being one big one. AmCham was a big supporter of AmCham. We worked hard to support its adoption. We were very disappointed when the U.S. withdrew from it. But that ship has sailed, and right now we're keeping a very close lookout on the horizon to see exactly what the current prevailing wind blows in. We try to maintain contact with Washington. Traditionally, that's been through a annual door-knock visit to Washington. That really brought home to us the fact that many of the members of the administration who deal with Asia matters are even newer than the new administration itself. We were quite shocked to find when we did our door knock how many of the doors we knocked on had no one behind them. But the president is gradually filling out his staff, but it's going to take a long time for us to build the kind of relationships that we had developed over 8 years in the Obama administration. We all know Hong Kong is not well understood in Washington, even in the best of times, and now is not the best of times. There are complicated political dynamics going on here that are hard to understand even when you're in the middle of them, much less half a world away. And it's not well understood the United States has the largest trade surplus with Hong Kong of all of its trading partners, and that Hong Kong is still a bastion of free expression and rule of law in this region. Hong Kong deserves support and encouragement from the United States. As Walter has very often said, we, AmCham, are Hong Kong's biggest cheerleader. I encourage you not to take that too literally. Walter and I as cheerleaders is not a good visual. But there is no one in a better position to tell Hong Kong's story in Washington than AmCham is. So for all these reasons, we've decided to up our game on U.S. advocacy and to devote more resources, more time, and more attention to it. And in fact, during the 2015 to 20 strategic plan adopted during Peter's chairmanship, the prime focus of the fourth year of the plan, 2018, is in fact advocacy. So let me introduce you to the man who will be leading the charge on that, our Vice Chairman Robert Greaves, who heads our Government Relations Group and our U.S. Task Force, U.S. Advocacy Task Force.
Advocacy is a core component of everything we do at the American Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. This year, we will seek outcomes to help Hong Kong and Americans throughout Asia understand and address the changes in Washington, in trade and investment policies, and in our relations with Asia. At the same time, we will continue to promote our core values of free trade, free flow of information, a level playing field for business throughout Asia, and adherence to the rule of law. We will also be expanding our visits to Washington from the annual door knock to include a series of delegations around themed business and trade issues.
The next two of our priority areas are closely related. There's a good bit of overlap between them. I'm going to try and go a little bit faster here as Tara's going to come up with a hook soon, I think. They're both initiatives to help us adapt and embrace the rapid pace of technological innovation, particularly in the areas of artificial intelligence, big data, machine learning, and robotics. but they approach the opportunities and challenges generated by these from somewhat different directions. Given the special contributions of American companies and other institutions, among them many of our members, are making to the development of this technology, these are areas where we do think AmCham can be a thought leader in helping to shape the Hong Kong government's policy direction, and where our members can participate profitably as consultants, designers, suppliers, and financiers, and lawyers, of course. Don't do anything without lawyers. The first is smart city. Now, smart city's been a lot in the news these days, so I'm sure that everybody knows that there are 7 elements to smart city: smart mobility, smart living, smart environment, smart people, smart government, smart economy, and smart AmCham. Okay, so smart AmCham so far is not part of the government's smart city blueprint, but I added it here as a reminder that everything we do must flow out of our own core values. Now, the last of these, transparency and free flow of information, stands out as we charge deeper into the new industrial revolution. The advantage that Hong Kong provides through one country, two systems, free flow of data, respect for and protection of personal data privacy, cultural diversity, and connectivity with the rest of the world, right here at the border of mainland China. Think how the value of these things can grow as the digital economy expands. So long as we think strategically, and so long as Hong Kong itself continues to cherish and celebrate its high degree of autonomy. Fortunately, we have a strong head start on Smart AmCham. We have a veritable stable of stable geniuses deployed on this mission. Our Innovation and Technology Committee, under the leadership this past year of Julie Brandt and Leonie Valentine, has done an enormous amount of work to make AmCham a voice to be heard on smart city issues. The committee has already kicked off this year with a fascinating event last week, hosting Hong Kong's Chief Information Officer, and has been laying the groundwork for our first ever Smart City Conference in June. Working closely with them will be our Smart City Task Force Chair, Rick Truscott.
First off, what we're going to do is we're going to try to establish thought leadership in the smart city sector in Hong Kong. One of the things we're doing is we're going to have the very first Smart City Conference this summer. So that's going to be one of the things that we try to do to establish the conversation and establish the tone in Hong Kong. The other things that we're going to do is we're working with the government. What we want to do is having discussions through the government, see what things that we can do to support their efforts and their desires.
Technological changes that we've been discussing raise two enormous questions for Hong Kong on the human side in areas that we used to put in separate silos as human resources and education. First, how do we get the talent that we need to make sure our companies and institutions can generate and exploit cutting-edge innovation? How do we develop it here, and how do we attract it from elsewhere? Because we're going to need both. Second, how do we educate and prepare our young people for a world in which many of the jobs that are out there now pretty soon can be done by machines? What will replace those jobs, and how do we equip the next generation to deal with it? In my day job, I tend to operate toward the value-added end of legal services, but sometimes I wonder how long it will take before a machine can do even my job. For my clients who are in the audience, let's just be clear, I'm not inviting your opinions on that subject. But, you know, I don't have to worry about that too much, but I have 3 kids who are in their 20s, and I really don't even know where to begin in advising them on how to think about and plan their own careers as they're going to have to face this new kind of competition. Of course, the very capacious concept of smart city captures the objective of smart people, but we've decided to launch an initiative that's specifically targeted on this human side of things. We call it the future of work, and it will be led by a person who's already a recognized thought leader in this area, Jennifer Van Dale.
But things that we need to think about are AI and robotics, for example. There's a big concern that people will lose their jobs to that. If that happens, do we have retraining policies in place? Do we have retraining opportunities? Where is the money coming from to do that? How long will it take? How does our education policy feed into that? These are things that we've been talking about, but they're really becoming important now.
So what is missing from this lively picture of AmCham taking a leadership role in responding to innovation and rapid change? Young people. The faster and more fundamental the coming changes will be, the more they're driven by technological innovation, the more essential it is for us to fill out our ranks with the vitality, passion, and technological savvy of the younger generation. We think if we can demonstrate to them the potential of roping together their own energies and talents with the resources and influence of AmCham, we can attract many more into these projects. We'll certainly be working very hard on that this year. And today, we have some of the vanguard of the younger generation of members with us, including Jamie Ford, founder of Proper Prep and chair of our Young Professionals Committee, and Yan Jung Chun of Thomson Reuters. Welcome. Hong Kong, China, and the Greater Bay Area. The relationship between Hong Kong and mainland China and their respective places in the world have changed fundamentally in the past 2 decades. Hong Kong's relative contribution to the Greater China GDP has declined very significantly. Hong Kong is no longer as central as a gateway for trade with and investment into China as it used to be. But at the same time, though we are a small part, it is a much, much bigger whole. And there are unquestionably opportunities in that. And in addition, Hong Kong has become a natural platform for the vastly increased Chinese investment outward into the world. Something like 60% of Chinese investment abroad comes through Hong Kong one way or another. If the Greater Bay Area were a country, it would rank 13th in the world, right between Russia and Australia. It's the centerpiece of greater economic integration between Hong Kong and the mainland, driven by expanding connectivity of all kinds. If the GBA initiative brings down some barriers and helps consolidate a role for Hong Kong as a prime services, financing, and R&D hub in the Pearl River Delta, it could open many new opportunities for our members. How the city will shine and lead in such a role depends to a great extent on Hong Kong's government's wisdom in defining a smart position that adapts to new realities without diluting Hong Kong's unique strengths and core values. The policy for the Greater Bay Area is still in a formative stage. There are still many questions to be answered about how it will work, what it will try to achieve, what the benefits for and risks to Hong Kong will be in it. We in AmCham want to be part of that conversation. We want to make our views known as the Greater Bay Area goes from being a concept to something much more concrete. So let me introduce you to Patrick Wu, who will head our Greater Bay Area Task Force and lead us in the development of ties with the cities on the mainland side of the 60 million person strong Greater Bay Area.
We have several specific initiatives in relation to the Greater Bay Area, which includes, one, taking a sector-to-sector approach in seeing what opportunities the Bay Area will bring, including, for instance, the financial services sector, the technology and infrastructure. Second, cooperating with the Hong Kong government in advocating the real opportunities that lies from Hong Kong, and to see how Hong Kong can be proactive in bringing these opportunities. And thirdly, organizing sector-specific delegations to the Bay Area throughout the year, starting with the technology and innovative sector in February and the financial service sector later in spring.
2019, AmCham Hong Kong will celebrate its 50th birthday. That makes this AmCham's 50th year. And another thing we'll be doing under the leadership of our 50th anniversary task force leader, Diana David, is prepare a series of celebrations and events to mark this milestone.
The American Chamber was founded in 1969, so it's our 50th anniversary. And it's a time to reflect. We've been quite active in Hong Kong. We advocated in Capitol Hill for the opening of the market in China. We have chairmen that have been here for and still live in Hong Kong for most of that time. And we've hosted many dignitaries throughout the years from the United States and explained Hong Kong to them and why it's important. Now it's our 50th anniversary, and we're really looking forward to celebrating those traditions.
During those 5 decades, AmCham has truly become part of Hong Kong. I sometimes think that our name isn't quite right. We're called the American Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. I think American Chamber of Commerce of Hong Kong would be better. We're not just present here, we are woven into the fabric of this community. Many of us who are American expats living and working in Hong Kong had made our homes and careers here. For many of us, this is the place that we've lived longest in our lives. Many of us were here 20 years ago when the Hong Kong SAR was born. I personally will never forget looking down from the balcony at the American Club down onto Queen's Pier as Governor Patton and Prince Charles walked across it onto the Royal Yacht Britannia and sailed out of Hong Kong Harbor. We are part of the community. We've not lost our Americanness, but we've developed deep roots in and profound affection for this, our home, Hong Kong. So it is in that spirit that I proudly look forward to serving this year as your chairman. Thank you.